and thanks for tuning in to the Path 11 podcast. I am your host, April Hanna. At the Path 11 podcast, we are here trying to deliver leading-edge research on consciousness, healing, and metaphysics. And just like you, we are trying to answer the big questions about life. Who are we? Why are we here? And what is our purpose? We hope by listening to our podcast, it will make each day you live on Earth a little easier to understand. And now for today's podcast. Hi everyone, we have a really fun and exciting show today. I would like to introduce you to our guest, Victoria Cochrane. She is a professional psychic, medium, and advanced theta healing practitioner, Reiki master, spiritual tutor, and an author. We are going to talk about one of the very first books that she had channeled, and we're going to get into that a little bit, but she is also an author of a few other books that we might also have the chance to talk about. But I really love talking about this subject. We are going to learn who the masters are. We're going to learn what it means to channel information and just hear a little bit about her life and the work that she's doing in the world. So Victoria, welcome to the Path 11 podcast.
Thanks very much, April. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and you are from Australia, is that correct?
I am from Australia. I was born in Adelaide in South Australia and grew up in Melbourne and then went teaching. So I've been a teacher for over 30 years and I met my husband down in a dairy farming district. So we got married and went dairy farming and then we moved to Tasmania in 1989 with 2 children, a container load of furniture and a cat and a dog. And then we had another child over here and we're not farming anymore. And I retired from teaching last year. And the boys are 34, 31 and 28 now. So time goes so quickly. But so my husband and I have been married nearly 35 years and still in love, which is a blessing. And we love the lifestyle here in northwest Tasmania. My husband's a boilermaker and as I said, I retired from, I was a literacy coach and I retired from that last year to give my spiritual work more focus. So that's what I've been doing and it's been going really well. I was lucky enough or fortunate enough to be awarded the Tasmanian Psychic Expos 2019 Psychic of the Year. So that's been a wonderful award to have this year. But I don't think it's really got me too many more bookings. It's maybe given me a little bit more credibility, but I like to think that my work and my ethical standards speak for themselves more.
Yeah, well, you know, the book that I had the opportunity to read was your very first one that you wrote, and I think that came out in 2013, so we're talking almost 6-7 years ago. We're moving into 2020 soon, but what I find really interesting is here, you know, you wrote this back in 2013, and some of the work that I'm doing in my own practice of spirituality, different healing modalities, I am just coming to learn about many of the things that you were writing about back then.
Yes, that's right.
So,
it's been in the pipeline for a long time, and people are taking a little while to wake up. Probably longer than we'd hoped, but its ascension is an ongoing process that will probably never go away and always be there. But yes, it's a bit of a work in progress, that's for sure.
Yeah, so the book that I'm speaking of is Raising the Energies of Mother Earth Towards and After Ascension of 2020. And so you start the book off by letting the reader know that you received an unexpected visit from a fourth plane being Shiva. Now, if anybody picks this book up and doesn't know much about channeling, but you know how sometimes books fall into the laps of people that need to read it.
Yes.
How do you begin to explain how this book was downloaded to you from these other planes?
Yes, well, I guess I just need to start by saying it was my grandfather in spirit who taught me how to channel, and that was a bit of a surprise in itself. And so Ascension happened in 2012, and but it had been centuries in the making, really. But the way I started to receive messages was at first I could smell cigarette smoke around me all the time, and it was my grandfather who'd passed away just after we were married, and that was like 25 years later when I started smelling that. And so, long story cut short, I started to receive messages from him, and he's the one who taught me how to do that. And then I met Archangel Michael, and he's been with me all the time. But I can bring anybody in, but when I'm working, I always bring in the higher source, which is the creator of all that is. And I learned to do that very early on, way before I did theta healing. So the planes of existence work. Shiva then was from the fourth plane, and I was brushing my teeth, and one of the utensils on the bathroom vanity wobbled, and so I tuned in quickly, and there was this kind of goddess-looking creature. And goddesses are from the upper fifth plane, but this one was, Shiva was from the fourth plane. And as with Pa, who came in, he's from the fourth plane too, but when we pass over, we can either choose to stay in the spirit world and evolve, or we can reincarnate to continue learning our lessons and evolve on the earthly plane that way. So Shiva was trying to evolve, but at that time I was still with my spiritual teacher, and she said, look, it's best if you work with the masters of light and the archangels and with creator, because when you work with fourth plane beings, they're meaning well, but they're also more likely to get you into ego and to give you some kind of false information. So after that, I thanked Shiva very much for wanting to help me, but called in the masters of light and always work through the creator, which I guess we can talk about as well, the reasons why I always advocate doing that. And that's how it was. And so the first book, Raising the Energies, came after a meditation that I did with a spiritual group that I was running at the time. And on the 12th of the 12th, 2012, we all joined in meditation and actually saw the same thing, which is pretty amazing for 10 people to do that. And what we basically saw was Mother Earth rise to a higher dimension. We opened up a portal with the masters, and she kind of rumbled through. Funnily enough, I don't really tell that story until the second book, which is Beyond Ascension 2012 Universal Truths, which I also brought out in 2013. So that was pretty amazing. But really what we're talking about here with Ascension is a raising of consciousness in humanity of beyond serving ego and looking towards oneness and unity in consciousness, which is from the third dimension up to the fifth dimension.
Wow, so you're the first person that I've ever heard talk about the fourth plane beings and where that they may have some ego. Can you go into that a little bit more and explain that? And maybe can you give some other examples of who fourth plane beings might be outside of Shiva?
Okay, well, the fourth plane is basically the spirit world. So it's where our spirit and our soul goes when we die. Well, our spirit basically goes back to the light, but all souls come from that. We start at the fourth plane, which is the spirit world, and then as we evolve and we achieve mastery, we rise to the upper fifth plane. The lower fifth plane is also an extension of the fourth plane. So when we're talking about the fourth plane, we're also talking about the astral plane, and it's a big wide spirit world out there. So depending on the lifetime you've had and how many lessons you've learnt already, the level that you go to in the spirit world depends very much on that. And when I bring people who've passed over from the spirit world, they're really just like they were when they died. I've got quite a few stories of that, but before I go into the stories, it's if you were nasty in life and you've still got lots of lessons to learn, then you're nasty in death, and you can cause a lot of trouble, and so that's where poltergeists and dark spirits come from. And so I always I always advocate for people to know exactly who they're talking to, and to never use a Ouija board or to just kind of open the door to the spirit world and then just expect to get, nice messages and things, because you might, but you might not. Shamanism comes from the fourth plane. So the fourth plane is very much the plane of mysticism and shamanism, Reiki, tarot cards, pendulums, any tools that we use like that will be operated from the fourth plane unless we specify otherwise. And the thing with that then is that and also totem guides and spirit guides and all of that, they're all from the fourth plane. But they can really, for some reason, they can just really elevate your ego. And so if you're coming from a place of ego, then you're really not coming to serve anybody. You're just serving yourself, and you'll be overcharging, or you'll be telling a person they can only use your services, or you'll be making yourself grander than you are. And even masters can do that too, who are still not quite evolved, can actually say, look how magnificent you are. And I've had masters do that and come in and say, you have the power and you can do all of this. Well, it's just not on, it's just never going to help anybody. And people who are going to practitioners who are in ego will suss that out pretty quickly. And it's the energy of the practitioner which then affects the energy of the healing or the reading. And it can really muck people up too, can really interfere with people's energies if the healer is not in integrity and not coming from a place of service. And so, look, even though the fourth plane can have some really wonderful magical healing properties, the fact is that it's a lower form of consciousness, and every plane of existence up to the seventh plane, which is source or the creator of all that is, has vows and commitments and conditions. And the fourth plane has things like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. I have to give of my senses to be close to God and things like that, and basically talks about a sacrifice of energy. So that's why people who do Reiki, who are not connected properly, or who are tuned in to spirit guides rather than angelic guides or the creator, can really get zapped of energy or put darker energy onto another person. And it's really quite dangerous. And so to know how to connect and who you're talking to is really, really, really important. I do know just recently of a young woman who trained in Reiki 1 and actually lost hearing in one of her ears after she was attuned. And so that came from the fourth plane. She actually somehow hooked into the shamanism of that and sacrificed her energy in exchange for the gift of Reiki, and that should not happen. So it does, it's a very real thing. And it's so when I am attuning people to Reiki, or when I'm doing any kind of tutoring, and I do a lot now because I awoke early so I could help other people to awaken and to guide them, I'm always teaching them how to go to the seventh plane to connect to the light, and always ask for a healing for the person's highest and best, or a reading for the person's highest and best, not the greater good, because the greater good also talks about sacrifice. The greater good's not necessarily for your own highest and best. If you think about the greater good, think about an ant colony where the guard ants will give their lives for the colony. In the energy of oneness and in the energy of the creator of all that is, there's no sacrifice. We're all one and the same. And so therefore it's very, very important to know this stuff and not just start dabbling without really being aware of the vows and commitments. And even the archangels and the masters will talk about the greater good. And as long as you've given permission, everyone has free will, and not even God can intervene in on our free will with our permission, they will take you to places that are probably going to leave energetic imprints that are probably not ideal. And if you're willing, they'll lead you places and to help the world and to serve. But you've always got to ask, is this for my highest and best, and is my energy protected? And so that's a lot of the work I do now.
Interesting. Now, so if you don't mind us talking about Reiki, just because I can relate to that, because I've gone through the training, and I do, am a Reiki master teacher. But when I was taught from and maybe I had really great teachers, because when I was taught about Reiki and the attunements and the way that I understand that energy is really maybe no different than the 7th level that you're talking about, because it is from the creator's energy, all that is encompassed, in that basically they say, we are not putting anything into anyone, taking anything out. It's really removing the ego, but it's just allowing that vibration and that intelligence that knows exactly what the person needs to be able to come through you. So,
yeah, I do agree with you. Yeah. I do think that it depends on the intention of the person and the energy of the person. And if the person's got low energy, then it's possible that they might not hook into that properly. It's just to be aware of. But generally, Reiki's pretty safe. And my husband gives me Reiki all the time. Best thing I ever did was attune him to Reiki. And he never connects to the creator or anything, and it's pretty safe. But it's just to be aware of, to always give your blessings and to say the Reiki ideals and to always give thanks and hook into that pranic energy, which is universal energy, which is God's energy. But they do say that it does come, all that kind of thing does come from the 4th plane too. And I just think that it's the level in which your intention is, and it's just to be aware of. So to be safe, I always just connect to the creator first, because I'm just really pedantic about that. But I think you're right there too. Pranic energy, there's lots of different pranic energy, and Reiki's only one of them. I've got my neighbour who's a reflexologist, and she just hooks into some kind of pranic energy, which feels very different to my Reiki, but it's still very healing energy. And I think with the love and intention of service and really wanting to help the other person, that's a God energy, that's a oneness energy. So it very much depends on the energy of the practitioner and how it's, and the intentions behind it.
Yeah, wonderful. So I know that we probably have a lot of listeners who are into a lot of the energy work. They might be practitioners themselves. Can you talk a little bit about how people like myself and our listeners begin to understand and know how to connect with the creator's energy and maybe working in some of those higher dimensions when they are working with other people?
Okay, so everything's with intention, really. So I always say with intent it is. So when you intend that you're working in the highest energy of the creator, which is unconditional love with no expectations, then it will be so. And that doesn't mean there shouldn't be an exchange of energy, because in spiritual law, everything works on a flow of receiving and giving and equal exchange. But Vyana Steibel brought through Theta Healing in around 2000, I think, or maybe before. And so she has a way of connecting through the planes to the creator of all that is. But there's actually no patent on God's unconditional love or creator's unconditional love. So I teach different ways of really just going to the light and through connecting through the chakras, through the breath, through the crown, or just imagining, because not everybody has the gift of clairvoyance or or anything or can see it. But really it's just through intention. As long as you intend that you're connected to the unconditional love of the Creator, and that's all Creator is. People think of God as sitting on a throne and being a man or whatever. It's Mother, Father, God. All energy is masculine and feminine combined, and divine masculine, divine feminine. And so it's just bringing in the light. If you don't see it, just imagine it. When you visualize it, when you intend it, you create it. So we're very powerful co-creators in that energy. Then when you're intending to create in the unconditional love, you're creating with no conditions. And it's very easy to create for bad as well as for good. So you really need to watch your thoughts and really have the highest intentions. And then in that energy, everything is instant. So instant healings are possible, and to manifest what you really desire is possible too. And even desiring to win Tatsoto, we're allowed to do that. We're allowed to still, we don't have to serve and be in poverty to live on earth and to serve humanity and to help each other. We deserve as much. We're all one, so we deserve as much as to receive as much as we give. But yeah, it's really just through intention, and so grounding is also very important too. And so it's as above, so below. So connecting to the Creator's light. Just imagine it coming through your crown and breathing it all the way down through your chakras and grounding you into Mother Earth and giving blessings and thanks to Mother Earth and for her gifts, and then bringing it back up and just sitting in that beautiful light. And when you believe it to be so and intend it to be so, it is, whether you see or feel it or not. So that's really it, and you can do it in an instant. Just a thought creates. So just think you're there and you're there. And so really we're so more powerful than we believe we are. And the belief work around theta healing, and there are lots of modalities that work the same. Louise Hay, you can heal your life. Her principles were the same. It's just what you believe you create. And so if we can say something, but if we don't have belief or intention behind it, then it's going to be very wishy-washy and not stick. So belief systems are very important too.
Yeah. Maybe can we also talk about the light body? I found it, interesting.
In the book?
Yeah, in the book. And, I want to talk about the megahertz, the vibration, and because, I read in your book that it says the normal body vibrates at 390 megahertz for perfect health, and that the light body, which is our etheric body, vibrates at a much higher frequency.
It does.
Yeah. So, and how do we know? I guess first questions first, how do we know, where do we get that information from, 390 megahertz?
Yeah, well, that just came through to me, and I have no way of checking that. So I just trust, if I didn't trust what I was told and what I see, trust is the biggest work for any work that we do in energy work or healing work. So I've had to work a lot on just, did I make that up, or, just trusting that it came through. And so that's where we're connecting to the Creator and then connecting to the Masters, know who exactly you're talking to. It's a lot easier to trust what's coming through. So that's what I was told. But what we're talking about basically is the light that is in all our chakras and the frequencies that are in our bodies. And we talk about the 7, actually there are 12 main chakras now, but we have about 360 chakras in our bodies, and they're energy centers and wheels. Chakra is Sanskrit for wheel, and they all rotate and vibrate at a certain frequency of light. And all the chakras are connected to particular organs in the body, and also angelic rays. And we're infinitely connected through our chakras to the earth and to the etheric kingdom. And so if they're all, and then our aura is around us, and if that's whole and doesn't have tears in it and is not blocked with energy, then we're feeling pretty fabulous. But then it can get really blocked. We can get our chakras can get blocked through energetically, through picking up energy from other people, or through emotional stress and worry, and actually worrying about whether we're good enough, or having all the stress of work upon us, and so the energetic blocks can actually decrease the light frequencies and make us feel pretty tired, and then illness, of course, can decrease our light further. So the light body is when the masters bring in more light, either through activations, just through downloads, or through a practitioner like myself who will use a pendulum to bring them in, or just to witness them coming in energetically. And the more light that's in our chakras and in our body, the higher our consciousness will be. So it really, we're talking about raising our vibrations. So raising the energies of Mother Earth is raising all of humans' vibrations above just the normal frequencies of what's happening in their chakras. So we'll be healthy and we'll be fine, but we'll be thinking pretty much about our own little bubbles, and not really sort of connecting to the greater, global concern about what's going on with Earth, or thinking about our impact on other people. And the more light that comes in, and it's coming in anyway because of the energies emanating from Mother Earth and from light workers like myself and yourself, working with Reiki, the beautiful energy, and wanting to help people, that's all raising the energies and frequencies and bringing more light in that way. But when the light starts to really come in and people are consciously aware that they want to raise their energies and frequencies well above the normal, then the chakras start to rotate and vibrate at a much higher frequency. But then it can leave the physical body thinking, what the heck's going on? And lead to quite a lot of physical issues like headaches and nausea and dizziness and just feeling a bit spacey. And that happened to me over 2 or 3 years. But and that was, back in 2008 I started, so it was, I had a couple of years to go. We all thought ascension was going to happen pretty quickly, but then of course there's a lot of interference and a lot of turmoil going on the earth, so a lot of blockages happening and people a bit slower to wake up. And so now, once people accept the challenge and say, hell yes, I'm coming in and I'm going to raise my frequencies and just let's save this planet, then it's like boom, and it's 6 months and they're like, whoa, what on earth is going on? And so it's happening a lot faster now because we don't have the time. We've got global warming happening and we've got all sorts of stuff happening, and people just getting entrenched in the mire of, if you look at the cover, April, of my book, you can see the earth down below, how dense it looks, and then what we're looking for is using the violet flame and heart-centered practice and connection to the Creator, and all just being one and united and just loving each other. It's not rocket science, really. And that's what ascension is. It's that raised consciousness of just, we're all in here, we're one and the same, no matter our differences. We're all connected, and we're ethereal beings having a human experience, and let's just love each other and get away from all this ego and materialism and serving self and not looking after one another. And so that's the difference on the book. That's what that picture represents, is moving from the treacle-like existence of just worrying about yourself to the beautiful earth that we're working towards, is everybody looking after each other. But look, it's a work in progress, and it's not a linear process. process either. And once it's not like you just reach ascension and suddenly, boom, you're there and you're all love and light, and we're still in a physical body and we're still human and we still have the ego and we still get blocked up by other people's energies, and it's a work in progress every day. And I can't say that I'm all love and light all the time either. So it's definitely something we can be in the third dimension, the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension within 2 minutes or even a sentence, depending on what we're saying and the vibration of our words. And it's, you can say, I really hate that. Well, that's a third dimensional thing. But when you say, I'm really worried about that person, I hope they're okay, that's a fourth dimensional kind of thinking. And then when you're thinking we're sending energy to the world and it's just love and light and doing all of that, well, that's fifth dimensional. We're moving fluidly within all of those dimensions all of the time. So it's quite a fascinating thing to think about. But I'm talking about being conscious of our consciousness and really working hard to eat really good food, stay away from the media, not get entrenched in drama, don't get entrenched in gossip, to actually meditate and connect to you guys, because a lot of what's going on in the world is disconnection. People get disconnected and then they just forget that we're all on this same journey together. So it's all about connecting to ourselves, loving ourselves. I always say the saviour of the world is for people to learn to love themselves. I think if we all just really loved and appreciated ourselves without the ego, to actually just say, hey, I'm a good person and I deserve to be here. And I've been through a bit of stuff, but actually I'm really proud of myself. So how can I help you? We'd be in a much better position right now,
Yeah.
Mm.
Now, you got me thinking a little bit more, too, about, I know that you had mentioned that you had won the award this year for Psychic of the Year. And I'm just wondering, as you're talking about working with the different planes, always connecting with the Creator first, now the spirit world would be in that fourth plane, that fourth dimension. Do you think, and I don't know, I'm just kind of speaking out loud and, letting you know my thoughts, but I'm wondering, I'm like, wow, well, maybe there's some psychic mediums that just, when they're doing readings, they go and they connect to that dimension as opposed to connecting with the Creator and then maybe having access to the fourth dimension. But do you think connecting with the Creator and then being able to connect to people in the spirit world, does that change the delivery, the accuracy of being a really good psychic medium?
I believe so. It also protects you from transference of energy. We're really talking about protecting yourself from conditions and vows and commitments from the different planes. We live and work in all the planes all the time. I'm drinking water, that's of the first plane. I'm breathing air, that's of the first plane. I'm talking to you in the third plane, and I'm connected and to my guides in the upper fifth plane. I connected to Creator in the seventh plane. I'm holding a crystal. We're living and working. Maybe with plants, it's the second plane. So we live and work in. It's a fluid thing. It's not like we go from one plane to the other. We're immersed in them the whole time. But yes, basically, if you're connected to the Creator first, that's the biggest protection I can recommend from transferring energy or actually being invaded or having sort of the spirit world stay open or anything like that. It's really about connecting to that light for protection, but also then to be, when you do that, you're taking the time to ask for an unconditional love reading. So therefore it's not going to be an ego. You're going to be connecting with the highest intentions. So yes, I do believe so, but it's more about being grounded. I could have done, say, 13 readings, that's a pretty big day if I'm at a psychic fair and I've seen 13 people. But I could have seen 20 people, but I'd still, with every client, I'm grounding. I just find myself doing it. I ground down. I bring my energy up into the Creator's light. I ask for an unconditional love, fourth plane reading for this person, for their highest and best, and then I remote view my energy over the person, and then I see the spirit world open. But if I'm looking for an angelic guide, I do the same thing. So it's just habit for me. But some people are always we're always connected to the light, but it's with that intention and being aware of it. You know, it's like if you are a teacher and you know your pedagogy, then you're going to be a better teacher because you know why you're doing everything. Whereas if a teacher just goes in and does ad hoc stuff without really knowing her theories of practice, she's not going to be as good a teacher. So it's the same as with a spiritual healer or a reader or anybody. If you know exactly who you're talking to and what your intentions are, and that you're protecting your energy, but you're also protecting your client's energy, and you're working in an energy of unconditional love and the highest intentions, yes, I think it's going to be a much better reading. Yeah.
Okay. And I just want to play devil's advocate just a little bit.
Sure.
Because you use the word, protection and needing that protection and all of that. How do we know that that's just not a fear-based belief? Because if you believe you need protection, or is there really commingling of the energies? But if you maybe also have a belief that you are always connected and protected to the Creator, are sometimes do we go through these, processes for ourselves because of a belief that we hold that maybe we could get harmed if we are engaging in the spirit world or have contact with that fourth plane. And then do we create a process just to make ourselves feel safer, or is it really not a fear-based belief, but, it is true that people can be harmed?
Well, that's a really fantastic question. Yes, I think that's part of what you say is true, and I need to think about that a little bit. Because, yes, we do create what we believe, but I always believe I'm impervious to evil, and I don't do it through fear. I do it through intention and just what I've been taught to do. That's the highest and best way to do it. And it's not. I don't think it's so much about the practitioner. I think it's more about the energy that you're then dabbling in that is not always working within spiritual law, and also the client who doesn't know anything about what we know about. So it's more about just ethical practice and making sure that you are taking those steps to prevent anything happening. But if we're working with archangels, I always say to people, just work with archangels. I'm always looking for the archangel guide, not the spirit guide, because I just know it. You're going to get a more accurate answer. So it's more about the energy levels and the vibrational frequencies of what you're working in. And also, look, it's a big wide spirit world out there, April. There's a lot of ethical spirits out there who don't give a toss about anybody else's health and well-being. I don't know what they want. So, it's just really about taking care of the client and making sure you're taking all the steps that nothing untoward can happen. So it doesn't come from fear. No, okay. It doesn't come from fear. But it's with intention. So it's just, just be conscious and really just everything is with intent and deliberation and thought and, yeah. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do. Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And I think, what you're saying is 100% true. Intention moves consciousness. So, what you intend, it is that easy,
It is. It's absolutely that easy, and it's frighteningly easy when you think about it. And that's why it's so important to be conscious of that intention. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this fantastic conversation. I loved it. I loved every piece of it.
I'm glad. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And I know that, we only talked about the one book that you wrote, but can you let our listeners know where they can find you, online, maybe the other books that came after this, and then we'll begin to wrap up.
That'd be fantastic. Well, I live in northwest Tasmania, but I work online. I've done readings and healings with people over Skype in Namibia and Giza and all over the place. On Facebook, I'm Reaching Out Spiritual News with Victoria Cochrane. I have a website, victoriacochrane.com. I also have a channelings blog, and I put up regular channelings from the Masters, victoriacochrane44.com. And then my books are available online, so you can get them on Amazon and most online retailers. So the first one was Raising the Energies of Mother Earth Towards and After Ascension 2012, The Highest Truth, and that's the longest title in history, but Creator gave it to me. And the second one was Beyond Ascension 2012, Universal Truths. The third one's Messages from Other Worlds, The Alignment of the Universe. And basically in 2012, on the 21st of the 12th, I did a meditation where I saw the Earth come into alignment with other planets in the galaxy, and that was quite a momentous occasion, even though I didn't know it at the time. And I've done lots of meditations of going to other planets. So that book's actually about other planets and how they live for the greater good and in oneness and everything. And I'm working on a fourth one now, the Book of Life. And it has a meditation with each chapter. I'm also online on Wednesdays, Australian Eastern Standard Time, or Daylight Savings Time at the moment, at 12 noon, on Spiritual Events and Directories Facebook page, doing the Spiritual Wisdom Hour, and I talk a lot about this kind of stuff that we've talked about. So it's pretty easy to find me. So if you just Google Victoria Cochrane, I'll pop up.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I'm really interested in reading book 3, so we might have you back on so we can talk a little bit more, because I feel like I only tapped into just a little bit of all of this wonderful knowledge that you have, and I'm really, really interested in that topic of book 3. So I have a feeling our paths are going to cross again, and we'll probably have you back on.
I'd love that. I hope so. Thank you so much, April. It's just been a pleasure talking to you. It really has.
Thanks for listening to the Path 11 podcast today. I hope you all enjoyed this show. And if you haven't checked out our Patreon page, I'd like you to do so, because we are going to start putting some content over there that is only for our Patreon subscribers. You can get content for as little as donating $1 a month, and it could just be a one-time donation. We have other freebies over there that you can get depending upon how much you would like to donate. And again, it could be a one-time donation, or you can continue to keep your subscription on a monthly basis at that donation level. But I just put my MBT immersive experience, which was a 4-day intensive meditation training in Tennessee with physicist Tom Campbell. I was listening to binaural beats, going to altered states of consciousness, having out-of-body experiences and life-changing experiences that I was able to bring back for myself, for my clients, for my friends. That was just out of this world. So if you would like to listen to that, I'd like you to head on over to path11podcast.com. You're going to see an orange button that says Patreon. Become a Patreon today, and you can have access to that podcast. And I would like to remind you to head on over to path11productions.com and check out the membership that we have for the Afterlife Awareness Conference. We have over 25 hours of footage with amazing speakers like William Buhlman, Thomas John, Terry Daniel, Suzanne Geisman, Suzanne Northrup, Linda Fitch, Austin Wells, just a few people to name off that were amazing. These workshops are just so valuable. So I think that you would really enjoy it. It's also a great thing to think about to maybe give the gift to somebody who is struggling with grief. If you are looking for resources, this is a great conference to send people to check out. And thanks again for listening today.